Okay, this video is to help you write your Module 8 paper. Um, the first thing that you want to do while writing the paper is to choose the topic. So if you scroll down to the bottom of um, the prompt, it gives you the topics that were brought up in the assignments, that the annotations, the articles, sorry, that you read. So for honor code, really focuses on the school system, how it fails boys. So you could write anything about how the school system, has any kind of failures at all. Masculinity, what's expected out of boys, how boys or girls, either way, aren't allowed to thrive because what's expected is what's opposite of what you typically see from male or female. The article, A Barbershop, was focusing more on ethnicity, culture, or race. So any kind of expectations that are placed on you because of your ethnicity, culture, or race, any sort of injustices that happen because of that. Or if you want to fight the other way, I don't mind if you argue that some of these things, if you think they were taken out of proportion, that people complain about these injustices, but they're really not, and here's why. As long as it's focusing on one of the topics and it has something to do with how the culture constrains us, right? The culture is forcing us to act in a certain way or think in a certain way. So that would fall under that. And I think that would be appropriate if you want to fight that way. I don't want to box anyone into any particular, way of thinking. So it also deals with masculinity. It also deals a little bit with sexuality. The article philosophy does the same, sexual preference, masculinity, anything involving those things. And then for the his politeness, her powerlessness article, that one really focuses on gender. So any sort of issues at all pertaining to how males and females are treated differently, and any injustice that goes with that. Or again, if you think that it's overblown, things are too politically correct, you could argue that side as well, because again, that's society telling you you have to think a certain way, and you could argue against that. So just think of some message you want to get across, some problem dealing with any of these social norms or expectations. People are expected to act in a certain way, and that doesn't allow them to be who they are. And then think of a audience that you want to address. There's three ways to do this. Here I have a bunch of suggestions up here. It says that you could decide an audience to address. It could be classmates, your parents, peers, people that are younger or older, coaches, students, administrators, teachers, church, city officials, that kind of thing. The way I look at it, if you've identified the problem, there's three people that you could address: the victims, the people that are actually doing the injustices, or a third party like a teacher or a parent that sees these things and can stop it. So you want to think about, who do I want to address? And then at that point, you just present the problem and present the solution. The solution needs to be something that the audience can do, not just be nice to people. That's too general. Be specific. If it's a teacher and you see these things happening in class, these specific things, here's what you could say, here's what you could do, something to that effect. If you're the victim and this happens to you, here's what you can say and do to try to avoid this, or to prevent these things from happening, or to prevent it from happening in the future. If you're talking to the people who are doing the crime, you need to try to convince them that this is a problem and that they can, fix it by stop doing, what they're doing, right? There are two things that you must have in the paper. You need to have a narrative, and it can be from your own experience. That's probably the best. But if it's someone that you are good friends with, or someone that has a story of this injustice happening, you could put the narrative at the beginning. You could put it in the middle. I wouldn't probably put it at the end. You could use it as an opener to get people interested in your story and your speech. You can use it as an example of the problem. You can even use a narrative as an example of the solution if you have one. And then you also need an article. Now, the article can be from one of the articles that we've read for class. It doesn't have to be. If you're going to deal with an issue that doesn't argue what our articles argued, you can certainly go find another article. Just make sure it's from a reputable source, okay? So you use the article to either as an example of the problem or as an explanation of the problem. It could be an example of the solution if you want it to be. Okay, and then you just end your paper with either a call to action, stress how important the topic is, why this needs to be taken care of. You could end with a short narrative, thank the audience, that kind of thing. You do not have to use the Dort article to write the paper, but you do have to have an article and a narrative, and make sure it's very clear and very specific. What is the problem? What is the solution? What can people do to solve this problem? If you want to get into what you think the result will be, that's probably even better. So if you have any questions, be sure to come and talk to me. Don't forget about the grammar assignment that goes with it. You need to have at least one of each of the 4 types of sentences we've been talking about, and then highlight them and then turn that in separately. So if you have any questions about anything, please come and see me. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Oh, dang it, I always do that. Stop sharing.